Hello, we hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another esports news episode, the last esports news episode of this kind. A quick reminder for all of you guys watching right now, come Monday, we're going to have a brand new format on the channel. We're going to split up the esports news into individual videos. So for all of you guys who are fans of individual esports out there, there's no need to click on a 20-minute video. We'll be going to a shorter format and also revamping the music and the intro and everything. Hope you guys all enjoy. As always, we'll see you back here Monday with a brand new format. But as per usual, let's get into today's episode of esports news. And in huge CSGO news, the roster shuffle is officially underway. We've talked a little bit about this in the past as well, but the first shuffles have now officially been coming in. It was rumors a couple weeks ago, has now been coming to fruition and actually becoming true. The first of which is Envious now having a full North American roster. I would say a bit anticlimactic. It seems the main reason why this team was actually picked up by Envious. Of course, Envious formerly a French roster for quite some time, and now going fully North American. It seems because of the X-Splice roster spot, it will be Semphis, Drone, and Cutler, the three-man part of the old Splice team who actually had the ESL Pro League spot. Alongside them, though, comes back the return of JDM for the first time in 7 months, and a big question mark going forward is, will he compete at the same level he used to? No one's really seen him compete at a high level ever since back in February when he left that Liquid roster. And the kind of the exciting thing about this is actually Nifty from Renegades. It's been announced as well. Renegades going to go fully one nationality. J-Keem and Nifty have now left that roster, and Nifty has now gone to this brand new Envious roster, which does mean a question a lot of people's minds out there now being two oppers on this Envious team. It does seem, based off rumors, that it will be Nifty going to the rifle role away from opping, probably a secondary opper, and it will be JDM being the primary opper on that team. Alongside that, it does seem probably Semphis is likely going to be the IGL of the squad going forward. ESL Pro League starts in less than 2 weeks, just about 12 days from now, so we're going to see how these guys do. On top of that, though, this actually brings in some huge roster moves around the entire map. We have North confirming their new roster. That will be Cadian and Gade. Gade was actually on loan to Optic, and of course Cadian was on Rogue. The question going forward for Rogue is, can they actually recover from this? An Opper and an IGL in the North American scene from a team like Rogue, can they really replace that? It's going to be hard to find someone who actually fits that role as well as Cadian did. Cadian really carrying that team to the way they did and actually qualifying for that major. This definitely, in my opinion, leaves Rogue in a very, very tough spot between a hard place. And this also means confirmations out there. It does seem pretty official. Nico will be joining Optic as their fifth. Nico is actually on loan as well, and he was actually a part of that Heroic roster. It seems Heroic is now going to sign former North Academy member Mertz, and it will be Nico going to Optic. I think obviously of all these changes so far, Envious is a roster we have questions about going forward. Alongside that, North I think definitely look good. KD will replace MSL on that roster. We're sure MSL will find a team. I think they definitely benefit from this. Rogue is definitely hurt the most about all these. And very lastly, I think Optic with Nico, if that is fully confirmed as it pretty much should be, I think definitely an improvement there from Gade for that team, who will also be not in Pro League, but instead they're going to be in the European side of Mountain Dew League, which nowadays is pretty much as competitive as the North American side of Pro League, which is pretty crazy to see. The teams in there are so highly competitive. Will we ever see this Optic Gaming roster actually make it to Pro League? That's a huge mystery because it's so competitive down there, and with them still changing their rosters around, it's going to be cool to see if they do make it. On top of that, we also have other rumors. That's the confirmed roster shuffle so far for now, but it's going to be Mouse Sports allegedly going to be trying to replace Oscar. It could be for Sticko. Sticko, of course, leaving that Cloud9 roster as Flusha did join them. He's actually officially joined Mouse Sports' ESEA roster. He has played with this team before, and it was actually alleged that Oscar, he tweeted out some things about some communication issues ever since Snacks did join that roster. So if it actually were Sticko to replace Oscar on the lineup, it'd be a bit questionable. It may of course, Chris J would go back to the primary opping role, but those are the last of roster change rumors out there, shuffles. I'm sure come Monday, guys, the ESL Pro League deadline was actually last night. We're going to see a ton more changes out there for some future teams who are going to look either very impressive or definitely be hurt by some of these moves. Now, very lastly, ESL New York's going on, as well as Blast Pro Series Istanbul, some great tournaments that are going on this weekend, which could bring some more solidified changes coming soon for teams like FaZe Clan. If you guys did watch ESL New York, it was actually FaZe Clan going out in dead last, and they've done this quite a few times in the past few months. This roster, again, a bit of a mystery at who's going to change for this team. I think a lot of questions out there revolving around Kerrigan. He tweeted out things like this. Obviously, some big issues going on in that team. Will they make changes, though? Who are other IGLs out there? Now with MSL available, there's so many possibilities in the air out there, but some big changes coming soon. But make sure to stay tuned for CSGO, guys. Some great tournaments going on this weekend. And in big Dota news out there, the qualifiers do continue for many tournaments. We actually have solidified our Kuala Lumpur qualified teams. Alongside them, guys, Dream League Season 10 teams have now officially been finalized as well. Some bigger news before we get into that, though. We actually have VGJ Storm is no longer VG anything, no longer tied to Vici Gaming whatsoever. They will continue on as J Storm, and they've actually signed March out of Army. If you remember that name, they've actually qualified for their first DPC major at Kuala Lumpur, and they'll continue as J Storm with that lineup. Their biggest win there was actually over Complexity. Complexity did have Fear, I believe, for Schem as a stand-in. We talked about their visa issues. Complexity continuing on with a different stand-in. I think it's actually JO now this time around. Either way, though, a strong win there. They actually qualify for that third North American spot. So very lastly, I don't expect too much out of them at the major, but still, them qualifying for that definitely probably got them signed by J Storm going forward. So I'm excited to see how they do in the future. Now, talking about Dream League Season 10, we have some upsetting teams out there. The first of which looking the best out of the Chinese qualifier, RNG, looking very dominant. They actually 2-0 sweep New B, and they beat Team Serenity twice. Now, that's actually Serenity and New B now failing to make Dream League as well as Kuala Lumpur. Out of the Chinese scene, definitely a very competitive scene, of course, but RNG looking very dominant over those teams for the second week in a row. Those teams failing to qualify for their tournaments. We'll see if any changes come their way. Also, for all you North American fans out there / European fans, Team Liquid managed to make it through out of their bracket. They survived the losers bracket. Their first opening loss to Mango Bays was a bit of a shock. They got 2-0 swept in that best of 3. They survived the lower bracket, though. They actually faced off against Team Lithium. They beat them 2-1 and had a rematch against Mango Bays yet again, and they beat them to actually qualify for that last European spot. So Team Liquid survive, and they actually make their first tournament here. We will see how they do. There were some question marks going into this, of course, failing to make Kuala Lumpur themselves, and of course this very, very not so strong start here at the Dream League Season 10 qualifiers. We're going to see which Team Liquid actually show up at their first major tournament. I'm excited to see, and I don't mean to misword that. Their first big tournament, their big LAN event, which will be Dream League Season 10. Now, also very lastly, it's Team Na'Vi getting warmed up finally, and they actually are looking very good. They grabbed that last and that only CIS qualifier spot. They take down Team Espada twice, and alongside them, they also take down Team Empire. Team Empire continuing to struggle, guys. They are definitely making some changes in the future. They've been making several changes in the past month or so. I'm going to be curious to see where these guys go, and it's tough to see a team like Espada always get so gosh dang close to qualifying. Unfortunately enough, though, Na'Vi looking pretty dominant over those teams. And very lastly, speaking of Na'Vi and some of their former members, it's actually Team Odium already making changes. This was definitely expected by a few of you guys out there, already making a few changes. It's actually VTune in general leaving that roster, seemingly because the roster could not qualify for Kuala Lumpur. I wouldn't say they got too close. They definitely had their chance out of the open qualifiers, but unfortunately enough, it does seem Team Odium, VTune in general, have now departed that team. Of course, General was actually one of those former Team Empire guys that got shifted out a few months ago. We're going to see what happens here, guys, but Dream League Season 10 qualifiers are now concluding, and now for Monday's episode, we'll touch on ESL Hamburg as qualifiers do continue for all these Dota tournaments. And in huge Fortnite news, I feel like I start off almost every episode saying that because it seems that of all the esports out there, all the video games out there that people play, Fortnite has the biggest changes that have dropped in the past few months, especially as of yesterday, guys. Season 6 did go live with some huge changes. If you guys did be able to witness this, of course, we do have Fall Skirmish coming up, but this has taken the cake so far because some huge competitive changes have now happened. There's been 4 rework locations on the map. Of course, Loot Lake is now a floating island if you guys have been there. A huge competitive change. We'll see how that affects things, but even bigger as some new items have also dropped, the first of which is going to be Shadow Stones, and they can be used so effectively. I am very curious how this week's Fall Skirmish, which is a solo event, by the way, I'll put that on screen, that little format for you guys. It will be a solo skirmish, and Shadow Stones will likely be live for that as well. They can actually be activated for 45 seconds. You're nearly fully invisible when you're standing still. When you're not standing still, though, you can actually phase either up in the air, you can phase through builds and walls. This is going to be a huge impact to the game, unlike the pets that were actually added alongside that. I am so curious. I cannot wait for Fall Skirmish to see how pro players use this, let alone even just the general population out there for Fortnite. I cannot wait to see how big of a change it actually is. Alongside those big changes, we had several weapons and items actually vaulted, the first of which, no big deal out there. We actually had Impulse Nades vaulted, but again, we already have Shockwaves, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. Suppressed SMGs go away, as well as LMGs. Most importantly, though, so do Bouncers and C4. I think C4 probably needed to be done, like the drum gun, very OP, especially when it comes down to competitive play. They tore through everything. They did damage damage through walls. It was pretty insane what C4 was actually, going to do. You literally had callouts during skirmish. People would call out C4 like it was some legendary weapon out there. So C4 is vaulted alongside bouncers. I never like to see a mobility change, a mobility weapon or item out there being vaulted. I think the fast-paced game needs to be keeping up, and I'm not really sure why they would vault the bouncers, but nonetheless, it has been done, guys. We enter Fortnite Fall Skirmish week number 2. Who's going to be your solo winners? I cannot wait. I'll link the stream down below for all of you guys, as Fortnite Season 6 has arrived with some huge changes. And speaking of huge, we have the new League of Legends Rise video. If you guys have not seen this, somehow, if you're not one of the almost 10 million people who have already watched it, it's now on trending. I will link this full video down below, as well as show some of it for you guys. The new Rise trailer, of course, for this year's Worlds was absolutely incredible. I love the incorporation of all the, of course, a few pro players out there who are at the last Worlds. Alongside that, though, ending with Ambition and alongside Faker, it was so cool to see. Really, really well done. If you guys have not seen it, again, I really encourage you guys to. The production value was amazing, and all of those pro players who were actually in that video got their own statuettes of themselves in their cosplay or characters. So it was really cool to see that as well. On top of that, guys, of course, speaking of Worlds, it does start Monday, our play-in stage. We're going to break down our 8.19 Worlds patch along with our play-in stage matches when Monday does come around. It's not too huge of changes. I think a few buffs to maybe Pyke and some other characters out there. Nothing too big like we expected, but of course, we'll break that down come Monday's episode. And speaking of Monday, play-in stages have actually switched around. It's a really, really slight change here. Infinity Esports actually had a visa issue. They're still going to make it only one day late, but thanks to Riot, they've actually switched day 1 and 3 matches with day 2 and 4 matches, giving that team an extra day of rest. Of course, that long day of travel there could affect that team. A very rare thing for many organizers out there to actually move matches around for a team who had visa issues. Infinity Esports, that being, they definitely have a tough schedule ahead of them. The day 1 and 3 matches are now switched to day 2 and 4 to deal with that. So Worlds do approach, guys. I cannot wait. And speaking very lastly here in League of Legends news out there of Worlds, apparently Worlds 2018 tickets sold out in less than 10 seconds for yet another year. It happens just about every year. For all of you guys who are not aware, I want you to listen to some following advice out there. Just stay on the website, keep on refreshing. It does seem, of course, the active bots out there are buying out these tickets and trying to resell them for higher prices. But why they of course do this is because there's no 24-hour refund fee. If you refund those tickets within 24 hours, they can do so with no fee. They buy these tickets up, they try and resell them for a higher value within 24 hours. If it's not done, they just refund them and they buy them all back again. So refresh, guys, keep on refreshing, come back at weird times, and hopefully you guys can get your World 2018 tickets for less than $550, which is apparently what they're reselling them for. Some ridiculous stuff, and hopefully going to be fixed in the future. But again, something we see every Worlds come around. These Korean bots are actually buying out these tickets. But nonetheless, I am so excited, guys. Worlds is coming Monday. And not too much happening Overwatch news out there, guys, in terms of roster changes or transfers as of right now. Hopefully more coming by next week. But speaking of Overwatch League out there, apparently by the 2019 season, alleged by Blizzard, guys, they're going to really start pushing the actual incorporation of women out there as well as underrepresented minorities out there. Now, what they mean by this, if you guys did watch, of course, Overwatch League Season 1, you remember Shanghai Dragons, the 0-40 run. Nonetheless, though, I don't mean to demean this whatsoever. They did have one of the only, actually the only female pro players in Overwatch League main stage as of right now. Hopefully going to push more of that in the future. She will retain her spot. That's actually Kim, otherwise known as Gaguri, on that roster, and she'll be one of the 3 Shanghai Dragons that actually kept their spot for Overwatch League Season 2, or at least so it seems so far before they announced that full team over there. And again, I do want to point out the fact that she accomplished this when it comes to the main stage, the top stage of Overwatch, and when you compare that to other esports out there, there are not too many females who can compete at that level as of right now. So for the incorporation of this, I hope the best for her future. For what she's done so far has been absolutely amazing. Alongside her, a great achievement as well. The first ever coaching staff female has also been announced for Season 2. That will be, of course, Avala alongside Wizard on that DC roster. Some great accomplishments so far, and hopefully Blizzard's actually going to push for this, not only on their own staff, so this means like management staff for Overwatch League itself, but alongside that on team staffs, as well as, of course, players as well. They're going to push for females as well as other minorities out there. How they're going to do this, they didn't really go into great detail, but I cannot wait to see who actually manages to take advantage of this. By the 2019 season, Season 3 of Overwatch League, we should see more minority players, which I cannot wait to see what they have in store for the future. And very lastly, in Rocket League news out there, again, not too many roster changes, but we did have a new signing actually of an RLRS qualifying team. That will be Team Igneous. They announced their brand new roster. Not a stunning roster. Actually, Calzify, I believe, is the only one who's actually been into RLRS before. They're going to try and qualify for next season, so best of luck to that team out there. But of course, speaking of the bigger stage, RLCS, guys, that week 4 does continue as teams solidify their playoff spots. And this week is going to be a bit of a crazy week. After this week, it's going to be Cloud9 facing off against FlyQuest. FlyQuest desperately searching for their #1 win. Their first win win, but they are still out of playoffs contention no matter what. Alongside them, it will be Cloud9 versus G2. That does mean after week 4 of North America play here, we will have only one remaining North American undefeated team. Alongside that, EG, NRG, they look to solidify their playoff runs against teams like Allegiance and Rogue. It's really looking very doubtful for the bottom half of North America. It does seem pretty solidified, those 4 teams. That 4th place spot, though, going to be pretty much between EG and Ghost Gaming. Ghost Gaming, this is their chance. They also play FlyQuest this week. They must win out to stand a chance, and they're the team I'm really cheering for. I talked about last episode, guys. Of their 4 losses, they've all been to the 4 top teams, that being Cloud9, NRG, G2, and alongside them, EG. It's been tough to watch for Ghost Gaming, and they must win out. Alongside that, NRG or EG have to lose out as well for them to stand a chance. But otherwise than that, in the European side of things, a lot closer race, guys. A lot more things can happen there. Of course, Dignitas, your only undefeated team still. We have teams like WGG and Mouse Sports playing, and this is Fnatic's time, guys. This is literally their only time. They must win out this weekend, guys. They are taking on Flipside and Complexity, still in contention. Not necessarily Flipside, but definitely Complexity, a team they must beat to actually have a chance there. I told you guys Fnatic would be a comeback team after, of course, their 0-2. Their pretty bad start over there. This is definitely their comeback time as well. But I hope you guys all enjoyed, as always, this episode of Esports News. Remember, next week we are reformatting everything. Thank you guys for all watching. I will see you back here Monday with some brand new videos. And as always, my name is Jake. I'll see y'all then. Goodbye.